Keys to Fearlessness. Chapter 5. The Art of Knowing When to Be Bad. How we live is so far removed from how we ought to live that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done will rather learn to bring about his own ruin than his preservation. A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good. Niccolo Machiavelli. Most of us are torn. On one side, we want to live morally, follow the rules, be decent, do right by others. But on the other side, we live in a cutthroat world. It's competitive, fast-moving, and often unfair. If you're too nice, too good, too slow to act, you get stepped on, you get left behind. Our culture reflects this conflict. On the surface, it preaches cooperation and kindness. But in the background, it celebrates ruthless ambition, cunning strategies, and those who bend or break rules to rise to power. The result? We're awkward, uncomfortable, hesitant. We don't know when to be aggressive or when to hold back. And in the game of life, this hesitation costs us. Machiavelli understood this. In Renaissance Italy, city-states were constantly at war through diplomacy, bribery, betrayal, and open conflict. A leader had to survive in this jungle, and morality couldn't always guide him. But the problem wasn't immorality, it was being bad awkwardly. He believed power required the mastery of when and how to be bad. At times you must be the lion, bold, aggressive, direct. At others you must become the fox, clever, strategic, behind the scenes. And sometimes you must wear the mask of the lamb, humble, meek, agreeable. The key is knowing which to become and when. Done right, this balance creates more peace and effectiveness than rigid goodness ever could. Let's break down the 4 most common scenarios where fearlessness means choosing the right kind of bad. 1. The aggressors. When someone attacks you directly, your instincts tell you to fight back just as hard, but that's exactly what they want. You end up playing their game. They have simple ideas, relentless energy, and they're loud. Franklin D. Roosevelt mastered the opposite approach. In 1936, he faced a real threat from Huey Long and Father Coughlin. Loud, angry populists rallying the public against him. Rather than respond directly, FDR stayed calm. He let them talk, let them look reckless. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he destroyed their political networks, turned allies against them, and used federal power to cut their influence. By the time it mattered, they were splintered, and FDR won in a landslide. Lesson: let the aggressors expose themselves, stay cool, be the fox. 2. The passive aggressors. They smile, they act humble, they play the victim, but underneath, they're dangerous manipulators. They mess with your emotions, blur reality, and make you feel guilty when you stand up for yourself. Catherine the Great faced one of these. Her husband, Tsar Peter III, was petty and vindictive, but always wore the mask of childish innocence. He slowly humiliated her through small, calculated moves, hoping she'd break. But Catherine didn't react emotionally. She stayed calm, played the game, won allies, then struck once, cleanly and completely, removing him from power and never looking back. Lesson: passive aggressors feed on confusion. Don't play their game. Strike hard when it's time. Be the lion. 3. Unjust situations. There are times when the system itself is broken. It's not about individuals, it's about something wrong that must be changed. You can shout and scream and be righteous. But that often creates enemies and divides people. Real power lies in quiet, strategic change. Abraham Lincoln knew slavery had to end, but yelling abolition would have split the country before he had the power to do anything. So he disguised his intentions, played moderate, let the South make the first aggressive move. Then piece by piece he shifted public opinion and turned the tide. He baited the enemy, framed the North as the victim, and used deception to win support. Only once the time was right did he strike with full force. Lesson: the fox wins in unjust systems. Be smart, be strategic, hide your intentions until it's too late to stop you. Fourth, static situations. Sometimes the enemy isn't a person, it's a rigid system. Rules that are outdated, power structures that smother creativity. In these moments, fearlessness means burning it all down. That's what Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie did in the 1940s with jazz. The rules were stale, whitewashed, and limiting. So they destroyed them with bebop, a wild, chaotic, improvisational style that made space for new creativity and gave black musicians more power over their work. Lesson: when the system itself is broken, be the fire that burns it down. Invent something new. Be the lion that breaks the cage. Final thought. The key to fearlessness isn't being aggressive all the time. It's knowing when and how to be aggressive. It's learning to switch between the lion, the fox, and the lamb. That takes strategy. That takes control. That takes power. People will push. Systems will resist. Injustices will rise. Your fear will whisper to play it safe. But real power means seeing these moments clearly and choosing the right form of necessary badness. You don't need to be ruthless. You just need to know when to be fearless.